The longest hour of my day used to be the first one. I'd wake in the gray pre-dawn light, the silence of the house a heavy blanket. For years, since Clara passed, the mornings felt less like a beginning and more like a continuation of a quiet, slow ending. I'd lie there, listening to the house settle, feeling the familiar ache in my joints, the fog in my mind that no amount of sleep seemed to lift. I was an oldster, as my dear, bookish Clara would have said, just getting by. The change began with my grandson, Leo. He came to stay with me for a summer, his youthful energy a sudden, bright shock to my system. He noticed things. "Grandpa," he said one morning, watching me hit the snooze button for the third time, "why do you have a battle with your alarm clock every day? It seems exhausting." I grumbled something about needing the rest. But he was right. The fragmented sleep, the groggy stumble to the kitchen, the solitary cup of coffee drunk standing at the sink, it was a ritual of depletion, not renewal. Leo, with the gentle persistence of the young, became my mirror. He didn't lecture, he observed, and in his observations, I began to see the 7 silent thieves that were stealing my vitality one morning at a time. The first thief, the snooze button deception. My dance with the snooze button was a masterpiece of self-deception. I believed those stolen 9-minute increments were gifts of rest. But Leo pointed out what I couldn't see. "Your body's like an orchestra, Grandpa," he said, parroting something he had learned in his biology class. "When you wake up at 6, then 6:09, then 6:18, you're firing the conductor. It's all noise after that." He was right. I'd spend the first hours of my day feeling out of tune with myself, my thoughts sluggish, my movements uncoordinated. The thief of inconsistent rhythms was confusing my body's natural music. The turning point was the sunrise alarm clock Leo ordered for me. It filled the room with a gentle, dawn-like glow 30 minutes before the gentle chime sounded. The first morning, I woke naturally just as the light reached its peak. I felt clear. The grogginess that usually clung to me for hours had lifted. I had outsmarted the first thief simply by working with the light, not against it. The second thief, the empty well. My next habit was one of neglect. I'd shuffle to the kitchen and start a pot of coffee. That was it. Water? I never thought of it. "You've just gone 7 hours without a drink, Grandpa," Leo noted one day, filling a tall glass from the tap and placing it in my hand. "You wouldn't start your old truck without checking the oil, would you?" The metaphor struck a chord. I thought of my creaky knees and stiff shoulders as dry, rusty hinges. So I began a new ritual. Before bed, I'd place a beautiful, heavy-bottomed glass of water on my nightstand, with a slice of lemon floating in it like a promise. Drinking it became my very first conscious act, before my feet even touched the floor. Within a week, the morning stiffness began to ease. It wasn't a miracle cure, but it was a noticeable change. The simple act of replenishing the well made the whole system run smoother. The second thief, the one of dehydration, had been shown the door. The third thief, living in the shadows. I'd become an indoor creature. My world was the 4 walls of my house, my light was the cold blue of the television and the dim glow of lamps. Leo, a creature of the sun, would burst out the back door after breakfast, and I'd watch him from the window. "Come outside, Grandpa," he'd call. "The air is different out here." Reluctantly, I started joining him for just 5 minutes each morning. We wouldn't do anything, we'd just stand on the porch and breathe. I began to notice the way the light changed with the seasons, the specific birds that visited our birch tree, the scent of rain on dry earth. It was during one of these mornings that I remembered Clara's love of gardening. The next day, I found myself pulling a few weeds from her old rose bed. Then a few more. The 5 minutes became 15. The fog in my mind, which I had accepted as a permanent resident, began to lift. I was soaking in light and life. And the third thief, the one that kept me in the shadows, retreated. The fourth thief, the poisoned first bite. For years, my first contact with the world was the morning news. I'd turn on the television and consume a breakfast of conflict, crisis, and catastrophe. It set my teeth on edge and my mind racing with anxieties I couldn't control. Leo witnessed this one morning. You're letting strangers decide how you feel before you've even decided for yourself, he said quietly. His words shamed me with their truth. I was voluntarily poisoning my day before it had even begun. That afternoon, we drove to a bookstore, and I found a small leather-bound journal. That next morning, instead of reaching for the remote, I reached for a pen. I wrote 3 things I was grateful for. The sound of the birds, the memory of Clara's laugh, Leo's presence in my home. Then I wrote one small thing I looked forward to that day. Having ice cream after dinner, or reading a new chapter in my book. The change was profound. The anxiety that usually hummed in the background of my day was replaced by a low, steady current of peace. I had taken back control of my inner world from the fourth thief, the peddler of stress. The fifth thief, the silent table. I always ate breakfast alone. It was efficient. A bowl of cereal over the sink, a piece of toast while scrolling through my phone. It was just fuel. One Tuesday, Leo set the kitchen table properly for breakfast. 2 placemats, proper plates, even a small jam jar with a flower in it. It's nicer this way, don't you think? He said. We sat and talked. Really talked. Not about the news, but about his dreams, my memories, silly stories. The meal lasted 30 minutes, but it filled a part of me that had been empty for years. I realized the fifth thief wasn't just solitude, it was the absence of connection. The silent table was a place where loneliness grew. After Leo left, I kept the ritual. I set a place for myself. I sometimes called an old friend for a breakfast date over the phone. The meal was no longer just about feeding my body, but about nourishing my need for community. The sixth thief, the aimless body. I moved, but without purpose. I shuffled from room to room. My exercise was a few heart-held stretches, a walk to the mailbox. I was practicing dependence without realizing it. Leo challenged me. Let's not just go for a walk, he said. Let's walk to the park and count how many dogs we see. Let's see if we can beat our time from yesterday by 10 seconds. It made movement into a mission. My body, which I had treated as a failing machine, became a partner in curiosity and play. We started gardening together, truly gardening. I felt muscles I hadn't engaged in years. The stiffness gave way to a pleasant tiredness, the kind that comes from use. The sixth thief, who encouraged aimless decline, was replaced by a sense of purposeful strength. And then, the deepest thief of all was revealed. It was the week before Leo was to return to college. A familiar melancholy began to creep back in. What would my mornings be without him? What was the point of my carefully crafted routine if there was no one to share it with? I confessed this to him one evening on the porch. He listened, then said, "Grandpa, the routine wasn't for me. It was for you. Your why can't be me. It has to be you." He was right. I had replaced my old bad habits with new better ones, but the foundation, my purpose, was still external. I had to find my own reason to get up, my own reason to tend the roses and write in my journal. After he left, the house was quiet again, but the silence felt different. One morning, as I was writing in my journal, I found myself sketching one of Clara's rose bushes. I wasn't any good, but I enjoyed it. The next day, I bought a proper sketch pad and some pencils. My why became curiosity. It became the small, quiet mission of capturing a piece of beauty each day, of leaving a record of what I found worthy of attention. I was no longer just an oldster going through the motions. I had become an elder in training, a keeper of stories, a tender of beauty, a student of the morning light. The seventh thief, the one that whispered, "What's the point?" was silenced by the answer I found in